After my son deemed me a failure, I launched my own cafe. Discover the incredible change 90 days later. Jessica sat at the kitchen table, the clattering of silverware drowned out by the deafening thud of her son's words. "You're a failure, Mom." They struck like a hammer, cracking the fragile facade she wore like armor. Tears pricked at her eyes while the weight of her divorce wrapped around her chest like a vice. In that moment, it felt as if the walls were closing in, as if she had lost all her cards in this game of life. The financial pressures were relentless, and the last flicker of hope seemed to dim, overshadowed by the grim reality of welfare checks and worry. Yet somewhere, buried beneath the despair, a fire-ignited defiance whispered for her to rise. Determined to rewrite her story, Jessica envisioned a community cafe, a place where neighbors could come to share meals, laughter, and warmth. It was her dream, a glimmer of light cutting through the fog of her perceived failures. Undeterred by the doubtful glances from those who deemed her too fragile, just a single mother with little to offer, Jessica poured herself into that vision, channeling her heart through flour, sugar, and coffee beans. She worked tirelessly, igniting a sense of community spirit that felt both familiar and new. Mezzo mixed with hope, the cafe began to take shape. As she painted the walls a sunny yellow and arranged mismatched chairs, she envisioned laughter filling the air, the aroma of brewed coffee mingling with the scent of baked goods. A chalkboard proudly displayed messages of joy and encouragement, a testament to the love she nestled within these four walls. She found purpose in feeding those who were struggling, hiring a local veteran to help her reclaim their lives. Each steaming cup of coffee shared felt like a connection formed. Success was no longer just a solitary word, it was a heartbeat. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, but as the grand opening approached, chaos threatened to unravel it all. It was a kitchen disaster, food flung across the room, staff scrambling, and patrons gasping in disbelief. Jessica felt her heart plummet, the weight of previous disappointments crashing down on her like a tidal wave. Embarrassment flared, and doubt surged, whispering insidious thoughts. "Close the doors, Jessica. You're a failure." But even as she stood at the precipice of despair, a storm of voices pierced through the fog. The community poured in, rallying for her. Neighbors stepped up, rolling up their sleeves, helping to clean up the mess with laughter and stories that echoed resilience. Jessica watched in awe as solidarity blossomed, nourishing her fragile spirit. As hearts united, she felt the old wounds begin to heal. But just when she could taste redemption, Jake approached her, his eyes searching hers, filled with admiration tangled with confusion. "Will you really succeed, Mom?" he asked. Her answer hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty but shimmering with hope. Would she prove to him, more importantly, to herself, that rising from the ashes was possible? What would this journey mean for them both? In the inviting aroma of coffee, she found the beginning of an answer waiting to unfold, leaving her and the community heart racing, ready for what was to come. The morning of the grand opening arrived, fresh with promise and heavy with trepidation. Jessica stood outside her cafe, the warm sun casting a golden glow on the bright yellow walls. She took a deep breath, the scent of fresh paint mingled with the comforting aroma of brewed coffee wafting through the air. Today was the day. The day she would finally show her son and herself that she wasn't a failure. As she unlocked the door, a swarm of butterflies erupted in her stomach. Her heart raced, a mix of excitement and fear. What if no one came? What if she fell flat on her face? She shook her head, willing away the doubts that clung like shadows. Today was a fresh start. The community members she served flyers to started trickling in, each one a bright face amongst the clamor. There was Mrs. Reynolds, a widow who had always welcomed Jessica with open arms, and the cafe-loving teenagers from down the street, giggling as they scanned the chalkboard menu. The once empty cafe now buzzed with chatter and laughter, transforming sorrow into something alive and vibrant. Jessica's eyes sparkled as she moved from table to table, mixing and mingling. She poured coffee with her heart open, listening intently to the stories shared beneath her roof. It was through these conversations that she felt the weight lifting, little by little. When she spotted Jake enter, hands stuffed in his pockets and gaze scanning the room, joy bloomed in her chest. "Mom!" he called out, an unintended wave of embarrassment washing over his cheeks. He didn't shout, but he didn't whisper either. This was new territory for him, a cool cafe, lively and adorned with his mother's hard work. Jessica felt the tiniest tug of warmth as she approached him. "Hey there, kiddo. What do you think?" she asked, her smile radiating more than the sun outside that he glanced around as if trying to absorb it all. It's nice." His expression, somewhere between pride and hesitation, sparked something deep within her. "Just nice?" she teased, nudging him playfully. "You should try some of my pastries. You won't believe the chocolate chip cookie recipe I found." With an unsure grin, he nodded and ventured to the counter. Watching him, the ache of past failures washed away. She reveled in the thriving spirit of the cafe, one that stood as a testament to her resilience. As the hours passed, customers came and went, clinking mugs and exchanging smiles. Laughter seemed to echo in every corner, weaving a sense of belonging that once escaped Jessica. But amid the chaos of orders and conversations, an unsettling gnaw was present. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Then, just as she held a plate of cinnamon rolls, a figure stepped through the door. It was Tom, her ex-husband Jake's father, accompanied by a group of people she recognized from their old life. The atmosphere shifted, a quiet tension filling the air. He hadn't looked her in the eye since the divorce, yet here he was, in the heart of her new life. "Looks good, Jess," he finally said, his voice holding a weight of its own. Jessica's stomach twisted, anxiety creeping back in. Was this a moment of reckoning? Did he believe, like she wanted to? She steadied herself, inhaling deeply before responding. "Thanks, Tom. I'm really trying." But before she could finish, the sound of shattering glass made everyone turn. The cafe fell silent. Jessica's heart dropped as she locked eyes with Jake, wide with shock. Had everything she built begun to unravel? Would she stand back up again? With the crowd watching, and her past colliding with her present, everything felt poised on the edge of a knife, trembling for what came next. Jessica's heart raced as she turned to see the cause of the commotion. The shattered glass lay at Jake's feet, an innocent bystander to this unfolding drama. The plate she had been holding had slipped from her fingers, scattering cinnamon rolls in every direction. The chaos felt surreal, as if the universe was testing her resolve. The moment she began to feel a glimmer of pride. "Jake!" she exclaimed, rushing over to him. "Are you okay?" Her voice was frantic, trying to ensure he was unharmed. The crowd held its breath, uncertainty clouding the atmosphere like a thick fog. Jake swallowed hard, trying to process the stunned looks from their friends and neighbors. I didn't mean to." Tom stepped closer, a frown etched on his face. "What happened? Are you hurt?" His concern was immediate, but it felt different to Jessica. She could sense the undertones of an old wound reopening, the familiar ache of their fractured family re-emerging. Despite her efforts to move forward, Jessica knelt beside Jake, scanning his body for any signs of distress. "Just breathe, honey. You didn't do anything wrong." She wanted to wrap him in her arms, to shield him from all of it: the shattered glass, her ex-husband's scrutiny, the weight of her own insecurities. As Tom leaned down, catching explicit eye contact with her, Jessica braced herself for his judgment but held firm. "He's fine, Jess," he said, though the words carried more than simple reassurance. "Just a little clumsy, right, Jake?" "Yeah," Jake replied, fidgeting with his fingers. A few customers began to chatter among themselves, the air prickling with tension. Jessica could feel the judgmental glances, could almost hear the whispers that echoed in her mind. Was this it? Would she be reduced to the messy mom who couldn't keep her life together? The insecurities weighed down heavy, but she refused to buckle. "Let us clean this up," she said, her voice strong despite the nerves bubbling beneath. Turning to the onlookers, she summoned a sheepish smile. "Please, everyone, enjoy your pastries. We'll have this sorted out in no time. Can I help?" One of the teenagers piped up, his spiky hair bobbing up and down as he stepped forward. "I didn't even get to try any of those cinnamon rolls." A small wave of relief washed over Jessica. Laughter broke through the tension, softening the atmosphere. She gestured for another customer to gather a few napkins and a dustpan, and soon she had an impromptu cleaning crew, all eager to contribute to the cafe's first hiccup. Jake, feeling emboldened, stood up straighter. "Mom, maybe I should just go sit down," he murmured, glancing at the crowd. But Jessica shook her head. "No, you're staying right here with me," she insisted, determination flickering in her eyes. "You're part of this, Jake. We're better together." Tom stayed close, a silent observer as the atmosphere shifted and laughter returned. But there was something simmering in her chest. This was her moment to reclaim her space, to redefine who she was not just for herself, but for her son too. "You'll be okay," she whispered to Jake, brushing a strand of hair out of his face. He blinked back at her, uncertainty still lingering, but she saw the tiniest spark of confidence growing. Just then, someone cheered. It was Mrs. Reynolds, her kindly voice cutting through the noise. "Now that's the spirit. Let us gather around, folks. The cafe is thriving, and we're just getting started." Jessica felt goosebumps rise on her arms as the room filled with applause. In the middle of the whirlwind, there was a glimmer of unity, a shared experience. As she shared a proud look with Jake, a feeling pulsed through her, a flicker of hope. Maybe despite the crash, this was a moment of resilience, but then Tom spoke again, pulling her from her reverie. "It's nice to see you trying to make this work, Jess. Really it is." There was an edge to his tone she couldn't quite decipher, a hint of admiration mixed with something else. Before she could respond, a familiar voice chimed in from the crowd, only this time it felt like a weighty challenge. "Jess, be careful. When you invite the past to your future, you never know how it might crash into you." Where did this sudden wave of tension come from? Jessica's heart pounded again, but not just with anxiety, it was the urgency of a dilemma. Would she shrink back into the shadows of her past, or stand up boldly in her new life? As the laughter settled, she realized, with renewed resolve, that she was done treading lightly around the broken glass of her past. But could she confront whatever lay ahead without losing her footing again? The cafe buzzed around her, alive and vibrant. Yet, deep down, she knew there were more storms on the horizon and she was ready to face them. Jessica took a deep breath, her heart steadying a bit as she looked around at the smiling faces in her cafe. Nothing could mar this moment, at least that's what she tried to convince herself. The warmth of laughter filled the space, drawing her back from the brink of anxiety. Every smile, every cheer nudged at the corners of her heart, reminding her that she wasn't alone in this journey. "Mom!" Jake interrupted her thoughts, beaming as he held tightly to a cinnamon roll. "I think Mrs. Reynolds wants to buy one of the fancy ones." Jessica glanced over at Mrs. Reynolds, who eagerly awaited her chance. There was life in the cafe, a pulse Jess hadn't felt since she opened the doors. It was exhilarating but daunting all at once. "Sure, why not?" she answered, hoping her voice didn't reflect her own uncertainty. As Mrs. Reynolds approached, Jessica was thrust back into her own childhood memories, running in and out of her grandma's kitchen as the scent of cinnamon drifted in the air. That old feeling of nostalgia warmed her, reminding her why she started this cafe in the first place. It was for moments like these, the laughter, the community, the memories. She found her footing again as she wiped the counter, ready to pour all of the love she had into this business. Jake disappeared into the crowd, overwhelmed by the excitement, and Jessica felt a pang of pride. Yes, he could grow from this. They both could. But Tom's words echoed in her ears like an unwanted tune. Was she truly inviting her past? Was she setting herself up for another fall? The thought pinched at her, wrapping around her heart like an unwanted vine. She knew confronting her past was inevitable. It was like the broken glass underfoot, she had to acknowledge it, even if it hurt. "Hey Jess." A cheerful voice cut through her fog. It was Tara, a longtime friend and a familiar face. "I brought some extra frosting. Thought maybe you could turn those failed pastries into something more." Jessica chuckled, grateful for the gesture. "You've saved my day." She smiled, grateful for the bustling warmth of her friend. The cafe was filled with a mixture of chaos and joy, chatter rose, laughter bubbled, and the smell of freshly baked goods enveloped her like a hug. It anchored her, grounding her in the present. Maybe this was why she was here. Maybe this was her chance to carve a new path, but just as hope filled her chest, a familiar figure appeared in the doorway, her mother. The woman who had shaped many of her biggest insecurities. Jessica's pulse quickened, her breath hitching in her throat. Hadn't they just managed to create a social cocoon around themselves, free from familial constructs? "Mom," she called out, her voice trembling slightly. "What are you doing here?" Her mother stepped forward hesitantly. "I heard you opened a cafe. I thought I'd check it out." Jessica tried to mask the surprise in her face, unsure whether to be hurt, angry, or relieved. Conflict surged within her. She wanted to protect this newfound joy but also thought this could be an opportunity for redemption. The crowd thickened around them, subtle whispers rising like smoke. She felt the heat of their stares, a million judgments floating amidst the cinnamon dust in the air. Could she face her mother in her moment of triumph? Was she strong enough to address the fractures that lingered between them? "Have you tried a cinnamon roll?" Jessica offered, forcing a smile despite the tightness in her chest. "They're, our specialty." Her mother's expression softened. I'd love to." As they moved forward, Jessica felt the weight of her mother's eyes on her, the old patterns threatening to resurface. But she stood taller, embracing the challenge. This was her moment, and she would not allow the past to shatter her present. With every step forward, Jessica could feel the sound of laughter warming the cafe again, each chuckle like a thread sewing the present into something new. But deep within, she knew this was merely the beginning of a confrontation that promised to change everything for both of them. Would they be able to mend the past while moving toward the future? Or would their history weave its way back in, dragging Jessica under yet again? Only time would tell. As Jessica guided her mother toward the pastry display, tension hung thick in the air. She felt it knotting in her stomach, just like when she was a kid, waiting for a critique on whatever art project she dared to bring home. Would this moment end in disappointment or a spark of something new? "Everything looks amazing, Jess," her mother said, scanning the colorful array of treats that sparkled under the cafe lights. Jessica caught the edges of surprise in her mother's voice. Maybe this space, this achievement, would reshape their relationship in ways she dared to hope for. "Thanks, Mom," Jessica replied, her smile uneven but genuine. She turned slightly, trying to calm the storm inside her. "It's been a journey." The admission hung like a secret between them, waiting to be acknowledged. "What LL you have?" she asked, attempting to deflect some of the weight pressing against her heart. Her mother bit her lip, studying the options. "The cinnamon roll looks wonderful," Jessica nodded, taking one from the display. "That's what I'd recommend. It's still warm." As she slid it onto a plate, she felt a flood of memories tugging at her. The kitchen of her grandma, the quick cuts of flour flung in the air, laughter echoing with each turn of the whisk. Those moments had shaped her more than she realized. She blinked as her mother placed a hand on her arm. "I know her mother began, hesitating. "I've made mistakes, Jess. I'm here to change that. Jessica felt a flicker of vulnerability in the air, but she steeled herself against responding right away. Apologies were fragile things, often unraveling faster than they were woven. It's okay, Mom. This is about the cafe. Her mother sighed, a deep breath of defeat that felt too heavy for such a bright space. Maybe you could give me a tour when you're less busy? Jessica glanced around, a hint of unease settling in. No one was watching, not for now, but that could change quickly. This was still her opening day, a moment she'd fought hard for. Could she invite her history into this joy? Sure, she said softly, not fully believing it herself. After the rush. They made their way to a corner table, Jessica keeping her focus on her surroundings. Every face, every happy customer fueled her, reminding her that she had built this community herself, no one else. She didn't want her mother to overshadow it. Mom, I understand things have happened in the past, Jessica ventured, her heart thudding like a drum. But it's not that easy for me. We can't just jump back into being family. Her mother looked down, a pained expression crossing her face. I know I let you down. I wish I could change that, Jess. I wish you could too, Jessica admitted, the words feeling both freeing and terrifying. The weight lifted slightly, but the air still vibrated with unresolved tension. There's a lot more to unpack. You're right. But I'm willing to try, her mother replied, the sincerity in her voice disarming Jessica just a little. Then let us just focus on today. Just for now. Jessica took a breath, hopeful that optimism would bridge some of the old scars. With their cinnamon rolls finally settled in front of them, a few moments of silence hovered, uncomfortably familiar. Jessica caught sight of Jake, laughing with Tara across the room. They were wrapped in each other's warmth, sharing the joy that had become a lifeline for her. She wanted that feeling with her mother too, but it wouldn't come easily. I'm proud of you, you know, her mother finally said, looking directly at Jessica. The sincerity was there, but it felt laced with an undercurrent of remorse that struck a strange chord within her. Thank you, Jessica responded slowly, allowing the acknowledgement to settle. Time stretched in that moment, filled with potential and uncertainty. A crack had formed in the wall between them, but how deep would it go? Would it be enough for them to build a new foundation on? In that crowded cafe, the laughter continued, but the tension between mother and daughter begged for resolution. What would it take for them to bridge the distance, renew their tapestry of memories, and move forward together? As thoughts swirled, Jessica's heart danced between hope and fear. She had begun a new chapter, but would the past follow her, or could they truly write a fresh page? The question lingered as they both took their first bites, flavors exploding amid the silence, each thread of sweetness mingled with bitterness. Could this cafe heal more than just her weary heart? With the first bites of their cinnamon rolls lingering in the air, Jessica's nerves began to settle, if only slightly. Everything around her, the chatter, the steam rising from freshly brewed coffee, the comforting scent of pastries felt like a blanket wrapping around her. Yet, her mother's gaze still held an intensity that made her pulse quicken. Your cafe is just so beautiful, Jess, her mother said, a tremor of awe in her voice. I never saw you working towards this, not like this. You've built something special. Jessica shrugged, the warmth of her mother's words draping over her like sunshine from a filtered sky. I just wanted to create a space where people could feel at home. But it feels more than that, her mother pressed, her eyes searching Jessica's. It feels like you've put your heart into it. I had to, Jessica replied, her voice quieter. It's the only way I could move forward. Her mother leaned back, absorbing the weight of Jessica's words. I know I haven't been the mother you needed. And all I can do is try to be better if you'll let me. The flicker of vulnerability in her mother's eyes brought an unexpected stab of empathy for Jessica. She sensed a battle brewing between longing and wariness. Part of her wanted to reach out and mend the cracks, the other part was terrified of being hurt again. Could they really begin again? A raucous laugh broke through, drawing their attention. Tara, with her bright smile, was playfully shoving Jake, who pretended to stumble in mock surprise. It was genuine joy, and Jessica felt jealousy mix with sorrow. She wished she could feel that kind of care with her mother. "Hey! I might need to hire some security over here," Jake shouted, his jovial tone echoing across the room. Jessica couldn't help but smile at him, the fleeting moment easing the tension between her and her mother. "I love how happy they are together," she said softly, her eyes returning to her mother. "They look good together," her mother agreed, a thoughtful expression ghosting her features. "Relationships take work, don't they?" "Yeah, they do," Jessica murmured, wishing she could dive into this topic without hesitation. Could her relationship with her mother resemble something like that? Jessica's phone buzzed on the table, snapping her from her thoughts. She picked it up, heart racing as she saw a message from one of her patrons. A couple just posted about being in love with the cafe. "Their pictures look great, Mom. Let me see." Her mother reached for the phone, excitement lighting her face. As Jessica handed it over, she felt a rush of connection, as if their mutual love for the cafe could create a thread they could hang on to. But Jessica's heart still hammered. She wanted nothing more than for this thread to pull them together, yet she worried it might unravel just as easily. "Can I ask," her mother began, looking utterly fragile for a moment, "how do you feel about me being here today?" Jessica hesitated, emotion bubbling to the surface. The truth lay heavy on her tongue. "It's complicated. I want to be excited you're here, but it's hard to forget." Her mother nodded slowly. "I understand. I don't expect everything to be fixed today. You deserve to feel safe, Jess." "I'm still figuring out what that looks like," Jessica replied, her throat tightening. It felt like the first crack in the ice that had formed between them. Outside, a gust of wind rattled the cafe windows, echoing the slight turmoil inside her. But as she looked into her mother's eyes, Jessica could see the embers of hope lingering just beneath the surface. "Maybe we can build something together?" her mother offered, her voice barely above a whisper, carrying more weight than they had shared so far. As they both reached for their mugs, sentiment flickered in the air, drawing them closer. Could they really start piecing together a new bond amidst everything broken? The questions swirled around Jessica, making her stomach twist with uncertainty. She wanted to believe they could. But then, as a laughing couple walked past their table, and the scent of warm cinnamon lingered, she felt that old fear tightening back around her heart. What if they tried to build, only to find the foundation wouldn't hold? Could this cafe truly be the start of healing, not just for her, but for them? She gripped her mug tightly, not sure if she wanted to laugh, cry, or scream. The clinking of dishes from the bustling cafe reminded her that this was just the beginning. Where would their journey take them next? The cafe buzzed with life all around them, a stark contrast to the heavy silence hanging between Jessica and her mother. Jessica glanced at the door, where a few more patrons had squeezed in, shaking off droplets from the rain. Their laughter, mingling with the pleasant clatter of cups, reminded her of the noise she'd once craved in their home, a sound that brought warmth rather than unease. "Maybe we could start with a project?" her mother's suggestion sliced through Jessica's thoughts. Her mother leaned in, lowering her voice as if they were sharing a secret amidst the din of the cafe. "Something simple, like a new recipe for the menu? We could experiment together." Jessica tilted her head, feeling the spark of curiosity bloom. She had worked so hard to carve out her space, an oasis from her old life, and now the idea of welcoming her mother into it felt complicated. "A new recipe?" she echoed, testing the idea. "What do you have in mind? How about a family favorite?" her mother said, a smile peeking through her nerves. "Remember that apple pie we used to make every fall? We could add a twist, maybe some caramel or nuts." The mention of their old tradition tugged at Jessica's heart. Their kitchen had once been filled with laughter and mixing bowls, flour dusting their faces as they baked together. But those memories had faded when the warmth of their shared love had turned cold. "Yeah, I remember. We could do that," she replied, her voice thick with a mix of nostalgia and hesitation. "Let us make it this week, then." Her mother's enthusiasm spilled over like the froth on her cappuccino. For a moment, Jessica's resolve wavered, caught in the glimmer of their past. Could this be the bridge to something new? Her phone buzzed again, breaking the moment. Jessica glanced down to see a flurry of messages from Tara, counting down the minutes to their weekly trivia night scheduled for that evening. "Tara might need my help setting things up," Jessica said, shifting in her seat. The thought of trivia night sent an adrenaline rush through her, a mix of excitement and responsibility filling the air. "She's really excited, huh?" her mother observed, a hint of amusement in her tone. "Yeah, she is," Jessica replied, her smile returning as she considered how far they had come as friends. "Jess, maybe I could come tonight?" her mother suggested tentatively. "Help out, meet your friends? It might be a good start." The invitation hung between them, laden with possibility. Jess's heart raced with a swirl of dread and hope. "I don't know," she started, biting her lip. "Just to show you that I'm trying, no expectations," her mother added, an earnest tone underpinning her voice. That it was a small step, but it felt significant. "Okay, I'll text Tara." "Just promise me you really want to do this," Jessica said. "I promise," her mother responded, light spilling over her features like dawn breaking. As they finished their cinnamon rolls, the apprehension that had lingered began to shift. Jessica felt a hesitation but also an unexpected thrill at the thought of sharing her world with her mother, even if it terrified her. Could this tension lead to something good? Could they really work towards healing together in front of friends, laughter, and food? Just as hope filled her, Tara strutted in, bright-eyed and animated, ready to shower the cafe with her infectious energy. "Hey, what did I miss?" Tara asked, setting off in a cheer. Jessica exchanged a glance with her mother, and for the first time, a shared smile bloomed, not perfect, but real. But then, just as Jessica let her guard down, a realization hit hard: would this newfound openness shatter again? As she watched Tara embrace the warmth of the cafe, that familiar pang of concern crept back in. Could she truly find peace, or were they simply setting themselves up for another fall? As laughter unfolded around them and the scent of cinnamon filled the air, the question loomed: what if tonight changed everything? Jessica's heart raced as she watched Tara bounce over to their table, her energy like a warm blanket on a chilly evening. It was hard not to smile at Tara's infectious spirit. "I was guessing you two were deep in conversation about world domination or something equally exciting," Tara joked, plopping down across from them. Jessica laughed, grateful for the lightness Tara brought with her. "Oh, just planning our takeover of the local trivia scene." Same old," she said, glancing at her mother. Her mother added, "Actually, we might be planning an apple pie adventure this week." "Oh wow, pie sounds amazing. Are you both baking?" Tara asked, her eyes sparkling. "Maybe," Jessica answered, unsure of how connected they really were yet. A part of her felt anxious, but the thrill of Tara's excitement nudged it aside. "Count me in. I could be the official taste tester," Tara declared, leaning back in her chair, satisfaction radiating off her. Jessica's heart softened at the thought. Maybe inviting her mother into her life wouldn't be so terrible. Maybe with friends like Tara, they could carve out a new reality, a canvas that wasn't weighed down by the shadows of the past. "Yeah, we could definitely use a taste tester," her mother said, laughter in her tone. Jessica caught the glimmer of light in her mother's eyes. It felt new and fragile, like they were both walking a tightrope over uncertainty. The conversation flowed again, and as they discussed trivia questions and silly moments from previous weeks, Jessica felt her worries retreating, replaced by an ease she hadn't known in a long time. But the fear remained, curling around her heart like a vine. Just then, the cafe door swung open again, and a familiar figure strolled in, the barista, Jake, with his tousled hair and that easy smile. When he caught Jessica's eye, she felt a sudden wave of warmth rushing through her. It was easy to get lost in those moments when he smiled at her, something she didn't often allow herself to indulge in. "Hey, Trivia Night crew. Are we ready to win another one?" he called out, making his way over. "Absolutely," Tara responded with a punch of confidence, her hands on her hips like some heroic figure ready to champion their team. "Hey, Jessica. You think you'll finally remember what the capital of Turkey is?" Jake teased, a playful smirk on his lips. "Let us not bring up the past, Jake," she shot back, relishing the light banter. She loved how life felt light when he was around. As the banter continued, Jessica felt a sudden pang of guilt. Could she invite her mother fully into this world, let her see this version of herself that was just beginning to thrive? She wanted to shield it from her mother's past mistakes, her own tangled emotions. Before she could spiral in that thought too long, Tara leaned over, whispering, "You look lost in thought, Jess. You good?" Jessica turned, her heart in a twist. "Just thinking about tonight and everything," she replied, hoping her voice didn't give too much away. "Hey, it's all about having fun, right? Just breathe," Tara said, her voice softening. But could she truly breathe? She recalled her mother's earlier excitement, the way her face lit up at the thought of coming to trivia night. What if it opened up too many old wounds? But as Jessica glanced at her mother, who was sharing a laugh with Jake, hope flickered again. Maybe this was a chance for them both. Determined, she deepened her breath and dove into the evening. They cracked jokes, shared stories, and the energy in the cafe felt like they were floating on the warmth of friendship. But just as joy washed over her, Tara nudged her. "Oh, Jess, you're looking a little too serious. What is going on?" Jessica hesitated, looking around at the people who mattered. The bittersweet uncertainty of the night wrapped around her. How would she juggle this fragile new balance, with her past lurking like shadows on the wall? As she prepared to respond, she felt a pang of uncertainty settle deep in her stomach. Was she really ready for this? Ready to bridge her life with the life she once knew? The thought echoed within her, leaving her wondering if tonight was the beginning of something great or just another fragile moment waiting to unravel. Jessica forced a smile, pushing her worries deep down. "Just thinking about how great tonight is," she said, a little too eagerly. Tara eyed her skeptically but moved on, launching into yet another hilarious recap of a past trivia night. As laughter filled their corner of the cafe, Jessica felt her defenses soften. She watched Jake as he filled cups, his easy movements making it seem like he was part of the fabric of the place. Every time their eyes met, butterflies fluttered in her stomach, and she cursed herself for getting so caught up. Was this really happening? A night that could be fun, light, and filled with laughter? Here she was, feeling lighter than air, and yet hanging on to the edges of fear, but fear had its way of sneaking up on her. The edges of her mind started to draw back into darker thoughts. What if her little experiment with connecting with her mother went wrong? She didn't want to go back to how things used to be, back when conversations were choked with unspoken emotions and memories best left untouched. Suddenly, from the next table, an argument erupted, two friends clashing over a trivia question. "It's definitively Lisbon," shouted one, while the other yelled, "No way, it's Ankara." Jessica couldn't help but glance at her mother. The momentary distraction brought a sudden vulnerability to the forefront. She could see her mother's concern as she nervously sipped her coffee, another layer of the woman she hadn't fully understood yet. "What's the matter?" Tara nudged. "You're off in your own world again." Jessica hesitated, contemplating whether to share the tumult in her heart. "Just thinking about how different everything is now," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "It feels surreal in a way." "Change can be scary," Tara said, her voice comforting. "But it can also be good. Like when you try a new recipe, sometimes it turns out amazing, and other times it's a total flop. But you learn, right? There was truth in Tara's words, and it settled in Jessica like a warm drink on a cold day. She thought of the pie adventure they were planning. Baking together could be a way to connect with her mother, to create something good, tangible, and sweet, something they both could enjoy. But what if the recipe didn't turn out right? What if the effort only brought back glaring reminders of their history? Just then, Jake swung by their table, his presence a refreshing light. "So what's the plan for trivia night? Any secret strategies?" he asked, leaning slightly to get comfortable. "Just the usual," Jessica chimed in, the weight slightly lifting as she found herself slipping back into the rhythm of conversation. "Failing spectacularly on some geography questions while Tara holds our team together with sheer trivia magic." Tara laughed. "Hey! I'm counting on you too, Jess. You know more than you think." The warmth radiated between them, and for a brief moment, she felt the tension ease. But then, her mother glanced at her with a cautious smile. It struck Jessica that she, too, must be feeling the weight of the evening. As the trivia questions were handed out, Jessica focused on her mother, watching her react to the questions with hope and interest. It filled her with a sense of urgency. Could this night lead to something transformative? Would their laughter tonight weave a stronger bond amidst the fraying threads of their past? The first round began, and they found their rhythm easily. But beneath the surface, uncertainty still lingered. Could they both accept the changes that were starting to reshape their relationship? What if tonight turned out to be a false dawn? As the questions got harder and Julia softly asked, "What if I turn out to be a disappointment to you again?" Jessica's heart sank. How could she reassure her? While others cheered over right answers, she wrestled with doubt. The delicate balance of hope and fears wrapped around her like a heavy cloak. What if she got it wrong just like before? With her pulse racing, she met Jake's gaze across the room, and in that instant, another question emerged in her heart. Could she dare to be open, vulnerable, and honest about her fears? As joy and laughter mixed with uncertainty, Jessica wondered, was this just the beginning or another fragile moment ready to shatter? As laughter filled the cafe during trivia night, Jessica felt the sweet heaviness of hope mixed with uncertainty swirling around her like warm steam rising from freshly brewed coffee. It surrounded her, enveloping her in the community she had fought so hard to build. But between every joke and cheer, shadows of her past whispered insecurities in her ear, reminding her of all the times she had stumbled before. Looking over at her mother who was animatedly discussing trivia answers with Tara, Jessica felt a spark of surprise. The older woman's laughter seemed genuine, unaware of the tension that hung like fog in the background. Could this be a fresh chapter? Could they push through the layers of old hurt and come out on the other side? Taking a deep breath, she reached out to her mother. The memories of their strained conversations and missed connections stiffened in the air, yet this moment felt different. There was something raw and genuine in the joy surrounding them. "Mom," she said, her voice wavering slightly. "I don't want this night to be just another moment where we sit in silence. I want us to share this, and not just the trivia answers." Her mother turned towards her, surprise blooming on her face. "You're right, Jess. I've been waiting for the right time to talk and figure out how to make things better. Can we just not overthink it? Maybe, just for tonight, we can be ourselves?" Jessica suggested, squeezing her hands together nervously. "Yes," her mother replied, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I'd love that." As they shared simple smiles, the air between them softened. It was not an erasure of the past, but a fragile acknowledgement of its imperfections. They were both learning to navigate through it together. The cafe glittered with energy around them, but at that moment, it felt as if the world had shrunk to just the two of them. Suddenly, Jake approached, grinning as he held a platter of cupcakes. "Taste test these for trivia. I thought we could use some sweets in our corner." He beamed, his enthusiasm infectious. Jessica chuckled, grateful for the distraction. "Okay, but if I eat too many, I might jinx us for the next round." As they all took a cupcake, the rich chocolate melted sweetly on her tongue, lighting up her senses and igniting laughter among the group. That tiny bit of joy felt like a stitch mending an old wound. Within the amalgam of friendly banter, there was a golden light flickering in Jessica's heart. Hope. Maybe the pie project wouldn't lead to failure as she once feared. A slamming door interrupted the revelry, followed by a gust of cold wind. Jessica glanced towards the entrance, where a familiar silhouette strolled in. It was Tom, her ex-husband, the memories of their past racing through her mind like shadows. The crowd parted, and suddenly all eyes were back on her. "Oh boy," she muttered as he approached. Her heart raced, doubt clawing at her insides like a cat determined to claw its way back home. "Hey, Jess. I heard about the cafe." Tom started, his voice heavy with something she couldn't discern. He looked around, a hint of uncertainty on his face as he scanned the atmosphere of chatter and joy. Yeah, well, her mind whirled, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Could this night take another twist? Would the past crash in like a wrecking ball? "Looks amazing," he said, genuine admiration creeping into his tone. "I'm proud of you." At that very moment, Jessica started to believe that maybe people could change. Maybe she wasn't the only one wrestling with the remnants of a fractured relationship. Their gazes locked for a brief second, and she saw something she hadn't expected, some recognition of the pain, the mistakes, and the potential for growth. Raw energy buzzed through her. Beneath all that resentment, warmth was beginning to bloom like a wildflower through cracked concrete. "Thanks, Tom. I appreciate that," she said gently, realizing that warmth was flowing both ways. Jake caught the look between them and instinctively tensed, sensing the shift. But when Jessica turned back to him, she found his expression softer, encouraging. Reassured, she continued, "Maybe tonight, we can just shift the focus. Leave the past behind." A roar of cheer erupted in the cafe as the next trivia question was announced, igniting the air with laughter. It felt infectious, and as Jessica caught sight of her mother, they exchanged a glance that spoke volumes. Together, they could sail through this sea of difficulty, navigating every wave one step at a time. The competition continued, with Tara leading their team in answering question after question. Laughter rang out, layers of joy unfolding like petals of blooming daisies, breathing life into moments marred by earlier tension. Even Tom seemed swept up, joking along with the crowd. It felt surreal, and when finally, they won a small trophy for their trivia prowess, Jessica could hardly contain her joy. The cheers vibrated through her like a thrill, awakening fear slowly fading. "See?" She grinned, elbowing Jake as he flaunted their prize. "Told you." "Okay, you win this one," he laughed. "But only until the next question." As night wore on and the crowd relaxed into warmth and familiarity, Jessica looked around, her spirit soaring. Her cafe had blossomed into a refuge, a community stitched together by trials, laughter, and shared vulnerabilities. Finally, she glanced at her mother, who was seated nearby, sharing a joke with Tara and Jake. A cascade of emotions washed over Jessica: longing, excitement, but mostly love. It was new, but it was raw and honest. "What is going on in that head of yours?" Tara asked, nudging Jessica playfully. I think we're all just figuring it out," she replied, her smile illuminating the room. Finally, she saw a path clear under her feet, one that hugged the curves of hopes and fears alike. Each step would be an act of healing. With a spirit buoyed by laughter and warmth, she felt the lightness return, igniting something within her that had been dormant for too long, a belief in transformation. Tonight was full of promise, not just for her but for every fragile relationship she was willing to nurture. With eyes glistening with triumph, she looked forward, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Hand in hand with her community. It was time to write a new story, and in that very moment, she knew that every step forward would weave together the threads of her past, present, and a brighter future, one cinnamon roll at a time. As the laughter faded and everyone rose to celebrate their success, a pulse of excitement shot through her. Now was the time to take action. If you felt that uplifting energy and transformation, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share this with friends who need to see this journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Tell us in the comments how this story touched your heart. This is the moment to show your support. Lifetimes grow in the goodness of community and shared stories, so let's gather our friends for the next adventure together.